For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On November 8, 2003, 5-year-old Tyler Mitchell disappeared from his grandmother's ranch in the Texas Hill Country during a family reunion celebration. The kindergartner had been playing hide-and-seek with his cousins when he vanished into the dense cedar forests surrounding the property near Fredericksburg. Despite massive search efforts involving hundreds of volunteers, tracking dogs, and aircraft, no trace of the child was ever found in the rugged terrain of Gillespie County. For 20 years, his disappearance haunted the close-knit rural community and devastated the Mitchell family, who never stopped searching for answers. Then, in October 2023, an archaeological team excavating a historic site on adjacent property made a chilling discovery that would finally solve the case and expose a horrifying truth that had been buried beneath the hill country limestone for 2 decades. This is the complete story of Tyler's vanishing and the bone fragment that ultimately revealed a nightmare hidden in the very heart of Texas's most peaceful countryside. November 8, 2003, was meant to be a joyful day of family celebration at the Mitchell Ranch, where 3 generations had gathered to commemorate the 80th birthday of family matriarch Ruth Mitchell. The 500-acre property near Fredericksburg had been in the family for over a century, serving as the traditional gathering place for holidays and special occasions that brought together relatives from across Texas. 5-year-old Tyler Mitchell had been especially excited about the family reunion because it meant spending time with his numerous cousins and exploring the ranch that his grandmother had always described as a magical place where children could safely roam and play. Tyler was known for his adventurous spirit and curiosity about the natural world that surrounded the hill country property. The child lived in Austin with his parents, Michael and Jennifer Mitchell, where his father worked as an engineer and his mother taught elementary school. Tyler was a bright, energetic kindergartner who loved outdoor activities and had been looking forward to the ranch visit for weeks, constantly asking his parents when they would drive to Grandma Ruth's house. The Mitchell family ranch represented everything that was peaceful and safe about rural Texas life. The property included rolling hills covered with native cedar and oak trees, seasonal creeks that provided water for wildlife, and limestone outcroppings that created natural playground areas where children had been playing safely for generations. Ruth Mitchell had raised 4 children on the ranch and had watched dozens of grandchildren and great-grandchildren explore the same hills and valleys where Tyler would soon disappear. The property was considered completely safe for children, with no dangerous cliffs, deep water, or other obvious hazards that might pose risks to young explorers. Tyler's parents had established basic safety rules for his ranch activities, primarily requiring him to stay within sight of the main house and always play with his cousins rather than wandering alone. These guidelines had worked well during previous visits, as Tyler was generally obedient and his older cousins were responsible about watching out for younger children. The afternoon of November 8th had been perfect for outdoor activities, with mild temperatures and clear skies that encouraged the children to spend most of their time playing outside while adults prepared for the evening birthday celebration. Tyler had been particularly excited about a planned game of hide-and-seek that would involve all the children and cover the area around the ranch house. The game began around 3:30 p.m. with Tyler and 7 cousins ranging in age from 5 to 12 years old. The designated play area included the yard around the house, a nearby barn, and the edge of the cedar forest that bordered the main property. Adult family members were positioned on the house's wraparound porch where they could monitor the children's activities. Tyler's enthusiasm for hide-and-seek was infectious, and he had been laughing and running with his cousins as they took turns being it and finding increasingly creative hiding places around the ranch property. His bright red jacket made him easily visible among the autumn landscape, providing additional safety assurance for supervising adults. At approximately 4:15 p.m., Tyler was chosen to be the seeker for what would prove to be the final round of hide-and-seek. He dutifully covered his eyes and counted to 30 while his cousins scattered to find hiding places within the established boundaries of their play area. When Tyler finished counting and began searching for his hidden cousins, he systematically checked the usual hiding spots around the barn, behind trees, and near the house where previous games had been played. His cousins later told investigators that they could hear Tyler calling out as he searched, his voice carrying clearly across the ranch property. The game proceeded normally for approximately 15 minutes, with Tyler successfully finding most of his cousins in their various hiding places. However, when he failed to find the last 2 hidden children, the game began to take an ominous turn that none of the participants could have anticipated. Tyler's 11-year-old cousin Sarah was hiding behind a limestone outcropping approximately 100 yards from the house when she heard Tyler calling her name from what sounded like the edge of the cedar forest. His voice seemed to be moving away from the main property toward areas that were outside the established boundaries for their game. Concerned that Tyler might be entering areas where he wasn't supposed to go, Sarah emerged from her hiding place and called out to him. However, she received no response, and Tyler's voice seemed to have stopped completely, creating an unsettling silence that replaced the cheerful sounds of children playing. The other children gradually emerged from their hiding places when they realized the game had stopped and Tyler was no longer searching for them. Their calls for Tyler went unanswered, and a search of the immediate area revealed no sign of the 5-year-old anywhere near the house or barn. Michael Mitchell began a more systematic search when Tyler failed to respond to increasingly urgent calls from family members. The search expanded from the immediate yard area to include the barn, outbuildings, and nearby sections of the cedar forest where Tyler might have wandered while looking for his cousins. By 5 p.m., when Tyler had been missing for over 30 minutes, the entire extended family was involved in searching the ranch property and calling the Gillespie County Sheriff's Department for assistance. The rapid escalation from a children's game to a missing child emergency created panic among family members who had considered the ranch completely safe. Initial search efforts focused on areas where a 5-year-old might become lost or trapped, including the creek beds, limestone caves, and dense cedar thickets that characterized the hill country landscape. However, the systematic searching revealed no traces of Tyler or any indication of where he might have gone. Most disturbing was the complete absence of any trail or physical evidence that might indicate Tyler's direction of travel from the area where he had last been heard. The limestone soil and thick cedar duff made tracking difficult, but experienced ranch hands found no footprints, clothing fragments, or other signs of a child's passage. Sheriff's Deputy Carlos Vega arrived at the Mitchell Ranch by 5:45 p.m. and immediately began coordinating a search operation that would eventually involve multiple agencies and hundreds of volunteers. The rural location and approaching darkness made time critical for any hope of finding Tyler before nightfall. The initial search utilized available ranch hands, family members, and neighbors who were familiar with the property's topography and potential hazards. Teams systematically covered the area around the ranch house in expanding circles, calling Tyler's name and checking every possible location where a 5-year-old might hide or become trapped. Search dogs arrived from San Antonio by evening, but the numerous scents from family members and the confusion of multiple searchers made establishing Tyler's trail extremely difficult. The dogs showed interest in several areas but couldn't establish a definitive path that might indicate the direction of Tyler's travel. The search operation expanded throughout the night to include adjacent properties and public lands that bordered the Mitchell Ranch. Volunteers with flashlights and portable lights systematically examined creek beds, limestone outcroppings, and thick cedar forests where Tyler might have wandered and become lost or injured. Emergency Management Coordinator Janet Walsh organized volunteer efforts that brought experienced trackers, rescue specialists, and local residents who knew the challenging terrain of the hill country. The community response was overwhelming, with people driving from across central Texas to join the search for the missing child. The investigation revealed that Tyler was a well-behaved, intelligent child who followed safety rules and was unlikely to deliberately disobey instructions about staying within designated play areas. His disappearance during a supervised game with multiple family members present seemed completely inexplicable and frightening. Detective Lieutenant Amanda Foster of the Gillespie County Sheriff's Department joined the investigation as it became clear that Tyler's disappearance might involve more than a simple case of a lost child. The absence of any physical evidence or logical explanation for his vanishing suggested circumstances beyond normal search and rescue scenarios. After 3 days of intensive searching involving over 300 volunteers and professional rescue teams, the formal search operation was scaled back. Despite the massive effort covering thousands of acres of hill country terrain, no trace of Tyler or any of his belongings had been discovered anywhere in the region. The case generated significant media attention throughout Texas and beyond, with the story of a missing 5-year-old capturing public sympathy and generating thousands of tips from across the state. However, none of the reported sightings provided concrete evidence that advanced the investigation. Throughout 2004 and 2005, The Mitchell family organized private search expeditions and hired professional investigators to continue looking for Tyler when official resources were reduced. The family's determination to find answers kept the case visible and maintained pressure on authorities to pursue all possible leads. The case was featured in numerous missing children television programs and publications, generating national attention and tips from viewers who thought they might have information about Tyler's fate. Age progression photographs showed how Tyler might look as he grew older, though family members struggled with the implications of such images. Ruth Mitchell, Tyler's grandmother, never recovered from the trauma of losing her great-grandson during what was supposed to be a celebration at her ranch. She died in 2008, still blaming herself for Tyler's disappearance and never learning the truth about what had happened on her property. In 2010, human remains found in a different area of the hill country initially raised hopes for resolution, but forensic analysis determined they belonged to an adult who had died much earlier and were unrelated to Tyler's case. Such discoveries occasionally renewed attention to the investigation but didn't provide answers. Advanced search technologies became available during the 2010s, including improved ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging systems that could potentially locate buried evidence. However, the vast scale of potential search areas made comprehensive technological sweeps impractical without more specific information. The Mitchell family established a foundation focused on child safety education and supporting families of missing children, channeling their grief into advocacy work that helped other families navigate similar tragedies. Their annual memorial events kept Tyler's case in public awareness while honoring his memory. By 2020, 17 years after Tyler's disappearance, most people had accepted that the child was likely dead and that his remains might never be found in the vast hill country wilderness. However, scientific research activities in the area were creating new opportunities for unexpected discoveries. October 3, 2023, began as an excavation day for Dr. Patricia Hernandez and her archaeological team from Texas State University, who were conducting research on a historic German settlement site adjacent to the Mitchell Ranch. The work was part of a larger project documenting 19th-century immigrant communities in the Fredericksburg area. The archaeological site was located approximately 1 mile from the Mitchell Ranch House, in an area that had been searched during the initial Tyler Mitchell investigation but had yielded no evidence at that time. The excavation was uncovering foundations and artifacts from a homestead that had been abandoned in the 1880s. Around 2:15 p.m., while carefully excavating a section of what appeared to be a root cellar or storage pit, graduate student Kevin Park uncovered bone fragments that seemed inconsistent with the expected animal remains typically found at historic sites. The bones appeared to be human rather than from livestock or wild animals that might have died on the property. Dr. Hernandez immediately recognized the potential significance of the discovery and contacted both university authorities and local law enforcement about the findings. The bones were carefully documented and preserved while the excavation site was secured as a potential crime scene. Initial examination by forensic specialists revealed that the bone fragments belonged to a child approximately 5 to 7 years old who had died approximately 15 to 20 years earlier. The age and timeline immediately suggested a possible connection to the Tyler Mitchell case, though definitive identification would require advanced testing. Most disturbing was the discovery of additional evidence that suggested the child had been deliberately buried in the historic root cellar, which had been covered and concealed for many years. The burial showed signs of hasty concealment rather than proper interment, indicating criminal activity rather than natural death. DNA analysis of the bone fragments confirmed that they belonged to Tyler Mitchell, finally providing answers to his family after 20 years of uncertainty. However, the location and circumstances of the burial raised horrifying new questions about what had happened to the 5-year-old. The investigation revealed that Tyler had been murdered and his body concealed in the abandoned root cellar by someone with detailed knowledge of the historic site and its hidden location. The sophisticated concealment suggested that whoever was responsible had planned the crime carefully and chosen the burial location specifically to prevent discovery. Forensic analysis of evidence found with Tyler's remains led to the identification of DNA from Frank Weber, a 67-year-old man who had been working as a handyman and caretaker for several hill country properties during 2003. Weber had unrestricted access to the historic site and detailed knowledge of its hidden features. Weber was tracked down and arrested at his current residence in New Mexico, where additional evidence linked him to Tyler's murder. Under interrogation, he eventually confessed to luring the child away from the family game and killing him for reasons that he refused to fully explain. According to Weber's partial confession, he had been monitoring the Mitchell family reunion and had used the hide-and-seek game as an opportunity to isolate Tyler from his family. The confession revealed predatory behavior that had been operating undetected in the peaceful hill country community for years. The arrest of Frank Weber brought resolution to one of Texas's most heartbreaking unsolved cases while exposing the predatory behavior that had operated within the trusted rural community for decades. The confession revealed how someone with access to multiple properties could target children during family gatherings and celebrations. Weber's background revealed a history of inappropriate behavior around children and previous incidents that had resulted in his dismissal from other jobs, though none had been serious enough to trigger criminal charges or prevent him from finding new employment in the hill country area. The location where Tyler's remains were discovered explained why 20 years of searching had failed to find any trace of him. The historic root cellar was completely hidden and known only to local historians and archaeological researchers who had studied the abandoned German settlement. The confession provided closure to the Mitchell family while revealing the horrifying truth that Tyler had been murdered by someone who had been trusted within their community. The knowledge that their child had been deliberately targeted and killed destroyed any remaining hope that his disappearance might have been accidental. Weber was charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder of a child. At age 67 and facing overwhelming evidence, he received a life sentence without possibility of parole, ensuring he would never again pose a threat to other children in any community. The case prompted comprehensive reviews of background check procedures for workers who have access to rural properties where families gather for private celebrations. Tyler's murder highlighted how predators could operate within trusted rural communities where people assumed their children were safe. Dr. Hernandez and her archaeological team were recognized for their discovery and their professional handling of the evidence that finally solved Tyler's case. Their scientific work had provided answers that 2 decades of law enforcement investigation had been unable to achieve. The Mitchell family finally had closure about Tyler's fate, though learning that he had been murdered destroyed their ability to find peace even in resolution. The family's 20-year struggle to find answers had ended with the worst possible truth about their child's final moments. Tyler Mitchell's story serves as a horrifying reminder that predators can operate within the most trusted rural communities where families believe their children are completely safe from urban dangers. His murder revealed how someone with property access could target children during family celebrations when parents felt most secure. The 20-year delay in solving the case illustrates how effectively historical sites can conceal evidence of crimes, particularly when perpetrators have detailed knowledge of hidden features that law enforcement and searchers would never think to examine during investigations. For rural communities throughout Texas, Tyler's case provided crucial lessons about the need for background checks and security measures even in areas where families have traditionally felt safe from criminal threats. The false sense of security in rural settings can create vulnerabilities that predators learn to exploit. The persistence of the Mitchell family in keeping Tyler's case active and supporting other missing children initiatives contributed to the recognition of the archaeological discovery as significant evidence. Their 20 years of advocacy ensured that when answers finally came, they received appropriate investigation and prosecution. The case demonstrates how scientific research activities can sometimes intersect with criminal investigations in unexpected ways, providing breakthroughs that dedicated law enforcement efforts alone might not achieve. Archaeological work in rural areas creates opportunities for discovering evidence that has been hidden for decades. The random discovery of crucial evidence after 20 years highlights the importance of maintaining cold case investigations and preserving DNA evidence as new technologies become available. Advanced forensic analysis made it possible to solve a case that had seemed hopeless since 2003. Tyler's legacy lives on through improved safety protocols for rural workers and enhanced screening procedures for individuals who have access to properties where families gather for private celebrations. His story serves as a permanent reminder that evil can hide within the most trusted rural communities. The case ultimately demonstrates that justice can emerge even after decades of investigation, providing hope for other families who continue waiting for answers about their missing children while serving as a warning that predators can operate successfully within communities where people least expect to encounter such threats.